man Perry Cronin and his team ready to get you through dealing with the IRS and the federal government. If they think you owe 'em money, or you owe 'em money, or whatever the situation is, it can be confusing because the tax code's confusing. By design, it's confusing. It's one of the few areas in our life where civil rights go out the window. They announce what you're liable for, and you have to prove you're not. You have to prove a negative almost to settle on the amount. Sometimes it's difficult, but don't be intimidated by it, and don't be foolish enough to try to work with them yourself. There's some things they're going to leave out, like their own deadlines and their own responsibility to back off in certain circumstances and not continue the harassment and the threats. Perry can help with all that. This is why this very brilliant CPA set up Axiom Tax Resolution Group in the first place, was to focus exclusively on unwinding these very unpleasant situations with the IRS. So let him help get some peace. Some of you filed an extension, and before you know it, that deadline's going to be here. If you did the 6 month, what is that, August? Go ahead and start working with Perry now. He can help you get settled, in some cases for less than you owe, in some cases for 80% off what you actually owe. You may be eligible for that. Then get you a settlement plan, payback plan, and you're done with it. Better luck next time, because there's a new deadline every single year. It's Axiom Tax Resolution Group. Y'all have heard of Perry for years here on the show, and I'm telling you, he's just brilliant. There's nobody in the country that knows more about this stuff than he does. There are a lot of big firms trying to get your business. Sit down with Perry face-to-face and let him help. 205tax.com. The phone number is 205-872-1100, 205tax.com. All right, so back to the Anthony case for a minute, because it's developing while we're on the air, and it had moved with great speed. Apparently, after about a 2-hour lunch recess, which was way longer than normal, kept the jury back in the jury box. They have come out, and the defense has rested. So they didn't call Anthony to the stand, which is logical. And they didn't, apparently so far, they haven't agreed on any kind of settlement of the case. So what generally happens next are closings. So each side gets a chance to present their final arguments to the jury. Different states call them different things. In the old days, we called them final arguments and opening arguments and closing arguments. But nowadays, they use the softer language of closing statements. The way that generally works is prosecution sort of restates its whole case. The defense comes back and tries to rebut. Then the prosecution gets one more. The defense presents their side. The prosecution can rebut, and then they send the jury back. Now, it's late in the day. Texas is, I don't know, is Frisco in the central time zone with us? I think they are.
Frisco, Texas, yeah.
Yeah, they're in the east part of Texas. Isn't that near Houston?
No, Frisco's in the Dallas proper.
It's in the Dallas. Okay. I just don't even know. I've never been to Frisco.
Yeah, you got Frisco, Plano.
Been to Plano.
Mm-hmm.
I actually bought an amplifier from Plano, Texas one time. This is a cool amp company there. Yeah, so I can't imagine, closings are probably going to take an hour, hour and a half. Generally, they give them 30 minutes, or depends on the judge and what the attorneys require. And they'll usually go 30, and then maybe 15. So I can't imagine the jury's going to get the case this evening. However, they did work through the weekend. I think they were in on Saturday. And so it's possible the judge sends them on back, especially as quick. And there's not a huge body of evidence. There's all kind of videos showing exactly what happened and a bunch of witness statements, and that's about it. And they got the knife. This is not some mystery that was solved with technical DNA evidence where they had to go track the killer down and figure out who it was. This was known from the second it happened. So we'll see where this goes this afternoon. So I got a feeling we're going to be covering some motions and or developments in that case this afternoon too. Let's come back here and talk about the weather. It looks like the system's kind of split in two when it got close to downtown Birmingham. And so if you're around I-20, you're getting a lot of heavy rain right now. We are under a flood watch. We've had so much rain over the last 2 or 3 weeks that the creeks and the rivers get up, the ground saturated, and anytime we get another half inch or an inch of rain, we're going to be into this flood kind of department. So let me pull that radar up one more time and look at it. It looks like right now, if you're out driving around, just slow down. It's kind of light rain for most of the metro. heavier rain from East Birmingham, sort of about the airport, all the way over to Pell City, right along I-20. So if you're on I-20, lightning showing up on the radar. Tuscaloosa is bracketed too by some very, very heavy rain. Just kind of a weak line that is formed all the way across the state over toward sort of Jacksonville, up near Oneonta, and like such as. The rest of the state pretty dry. North Alabama caught the worst of it last night. But we've got these possibilities for redevelopment this afternoon. We get into a lesser rain chance pattern as we go through the rest of the week. I'm hoping so because I got some stuff going on at the house. And I need them to be able to get out there and get it done. But that's just the nature of construction. You're always at the mercy of the weather. So there's your latest update this afternoon. The other weird phenomenon that we had this afternoon, and I haven't seen much more on it since it happened right before we came to air, there was a 6.1 earthquake just off the coast of Cuba, right to the west of Cuba, the very far west coast of Cuba. If you know your geography, Cuba's kind of like a banana-shaped island, and then on the very tip end, the western tip end, near enough to Florida that they claim to feel the buildings rumbling and shaking all the way up to the Tampa St. Pete area. We don't have any reports of damage or any injuries because this was an ocean, kind of a Gulf earthquake. We haven't seen any reports of aftershocks of any significant measurement, but we learned very early on that the U.S. Geological Survey says this is already the second largest quake in Gulf history. They don't tell us what the largest was, and I don't remember when that was, but if we see something on that, we'll let you know. It's the second largest recorded quake in the history of the Gulf of Mexico. And again, they did feel it. We didn't see any warnings. Well, they did feel it in Florida. We didn't see any tsunami or wave warnings or anything like that from this thing. And no reports out of Cuba of any damage. If there's going to be damage, you'd think Cuba would be closer to everything. So there's that this afternoon. Cuba's still in the mix in our news as we're maintaining simultaneous negotiations to try to sort of take over or unwind that ridiculous communist government and get these people some freedom down there. And so this happens. Maybe it's an opportunity for the United States to further help if they've got problems on the western end of the island with the power shortages and the fuel shortages they're having. Having an earthquake off your coast cannot be helpful. All right, we got a call about both weather and the traffic, and that's a good update. Jason is up next. What's up, Jason?
Hey, Leland, good afternoon, man.
Hey,
listen,
buddy. Yeah.
I-20 inbound in
Okay.
between the Leeds exit, which is the Buc-ee's exit,
Right.
and the I-459 interchange, there's been a accident that has just happened within the last 5 minutes. A semi-truck that has been pulling a mobile home has gone into the ditch and jackknifed. Now, that is also affecting outbound traffic because there's a couple of other trucks over there that are pulling mobile homes that have stopped. So, I-20 eastbound, I-20 inbound, the police, fire department, rescue personnel have not gotten there yet. So, it's going to be a mess, and it is pouring down buckets.
Right. Jason, I do not know what you do for a living, but you may be the best traffic reporter we've heard on the station in years.
You
That
know,
was well
funny
done.
you should say that. I am 27 years retired from radio.
Okay, well, that makes sense. This guy sounds like a pro, doesn't he, AJ? I was like, this guy's got some experience, man. He was clear and concise. I felt like I was listening to Les Nessman.
No, sir, not that good, but maybe, I don't know, Matt Murphy, maybe? I
Oh,
don't
man,
know.
that's terrible. I'll have to tell Matt you said that. Thanks, Jason. Good call, man.
Have a good one.
Good
Yes,
report.
sir. Bye-bye.
That was Johnny on the spot right there. AJ, do you know who Les Nessman was?
I've heard that name, but I never met that person.
WKRP in Cincinnati. He was the nerdy newsman that kept trying to take over
I
the
met
radio
him.
station.
I've heard him on. I feel like I've heard that name before.
He covered the Great Turkey Job.
Was that the he's the bow tie, right?
Yeah,
Always had
yeah,
the
he was
bow
very
tie?
serious.
Yeah.
He actually wanted his own office, but he didn't have an office. I literally worked with a guy just like this in the same time period. And so at one point, I remember he put tape on the floor around his desk to pretend there were walls there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he would get up and leave and come and go from his desk, he would open up the imaginary door and let himself out and close his door. That was one of the best shows ever, man. What happened to creativity on television? Okay, all right. So we dealt with the earthquake. We dealt with the weather. I'm trying to go through these things. Real quick commentary on California. I know it's obnoxious. It's amazing to see how these numbers are coming in. They set up all these rules in California to cheat. Y'all know this. The world knows this. You got your head up your ass if you don't know this. It's period. The Democrats created a bulletproof system where Republicans are zero threat to them. They're going to sit and accuse the South of doing stuff wrong just by redrawing districts. Wherever there's political advantage, they're in charge. They're going to take political advantage, and they've set up a month of counting votes and finding votes and votes showing up. So statistically, I mean, you can accuse them of that. They've legalized cheating out there. They've just legalized cheating. Any way you could conceive to make it easier to stuff the ballot full of homeless people, drug addicts, people that don't exist, imaginary people, invisible people, superheroes, anybody you can imagine, they're going to put them in the voter rolls. Today they did two things. They continue to dump votes in on this California mayor's race, and they also are blocking the Justice Department from looking at their voter rolls. The federal government would like to go in and see if the voter rolls are legitimate, and they won't let them do it. They're claiming some sovereign state status. The civil rights of the voters in California that are disenfranchised by the cheating are at stake. If you ask me, we'll let the lawyers fight about that. Meantime, statistically, here's what you're seeing. Prior to the election last Tuesday, you saw in the mayor's race where Spencer Pratt came in a solid second. That council lady, I forget her last name, came in a distant third, the socialist rich lady. And now, post-election, same mail-in ballots, but they're just slow in counting them. Suddenly, Pratt's getting 0 votes in some of these ballot dumps, and she's getting more than Karen Bass. Why is that? Because if they're going to get her into the runoff, which they now have officially, she's just exceeded the Spencer Pratt guy. He's not even going to be in the two-person runoff. That's the design. And so they got her over the top. They kept finding votes for her that statistically didn't match the same-day patterns nor the patterns prior to that because they're making stuff up. And we're all watching it. The world is watching them do it. And I don't know there's much we can do about it. Other than they claim to have the Justice Department paying attention to the counting. It comes down to the voter rolls. If you don't have clean voter rolls, you cannot have a good election. And if there are fake votes in the pile, as I call it, they get cast, they're in the pile. You can't go in there and find them and know where those votes came from because the ballot secrecy that we have in this country. So they're just in the pile. Recounts won't matter. It all comes down to the rolls, and California is making a move to defend themselves against the voter rolls. It's the same thing with Steve Hilton, the Republican that came in the top 2. I don't know that he's been bumped out yet, but he will be. And I hate to say it, but not to be too much of an I told you so, but before the election in California, we heard all this hype, all this. People do get in thought bubbles and started cheering on this Spencer Pratt, particularly because he was such an outsider and unconventional with his advertising. But I kept saying cynically that as much as I'd like to see this guy have a shot at displacing probably the most incompetent mayor in the country, maybe in the world, and that's saying something, to see her get picked off with some common sense would be refreshing. But I knew it's California. One, the voters are weird, and two, there's no way they're going to allow that to happen. They control the outcome. Let me repeat that. They control the outcome. So it's frustrating. Now, I did have a conversation with one of my buddy Ryan down the hall. We were talking earlier today about this. And some folks would say, well, who cares about California? I don't live there. Let them do what they want. I don't care who their governor is or who their mayor is. And I get that. We have sovereign states. But when it comes to national elections, and this is the whole purpose behind the SAVE Act, is when one state can do this, they can steer the outcome of our federal control and power. For example, they can steal 15 or 20 seats in California in the Congress. They can't do anything but send 2 of their senators, and we'll send 2 of ours. But in the Congress, they can control the outcome of some of those races. And in the Electoral College and the way we count votes for president, a few blue states that are willing to do this kind of stuff can control those outcomes. And the other states that are affected by a phony election in their sister states, can't do anything about it. There needs to be clarity from the courts. There needs to be a proper case over these matters. Firmly, I believe that my civil rights as an American citizen are violated if I vote in Alabama and another state cheats. For every state that cheats, they've watered down the votes in states that didn't. States with real voting laws, same day voting, ID, paper ballots, accountability, proper voter rolls, vetting, U.S. citizenship, all that is in the SAVE Act, but you can't get there. There are 4 Republicans short. Some say just 2, really. 2 Republicans in the United States Senate, and J.D. Vance could get that across the goal line. They cannot find the votes in the U.S. Senate. And back to I told you so, the day after Trump was elected, when I got on the air here, I was optimistic about some things he could get done, but none of it matters if it's not ratified and codified by our United States Congress. And that will not happen, I told you, because of the Republicans in the Senate. And true to word, they've let us down. We also knew this when they put Thune in that office and they kept the current parliamentarian. There were warning bells going off all over this country. This was entirely predictable. These people are insincere and they don't mean it. Meantime, we go to the polls a week from tomorrow to vote in our own Senate race and, of course, several other statewide races. There's one poll out today that shows Barry Moore up 8. It seems to be a pretty legitimate poll. That's probably within reason. I'll let you know about any other polling we see this afternoon. And our friends over at 1819 have a candidate debate tonight down in Montgomery. I don't know that those are going to make any difference, but it's good to keep these folks on the stage together, going back and forth. We've got a week. What that also means is looking at the high-end number, that poll had Barry Moore at 45. He's still not close enough to 50. There's still a large enough. If I'm that campaign, I'm freaked out. I want to be closer to 50%, no matter what your lead is. There's a lot of outstanding undecided right now from the previous race, and we know it'll be low turnout. So we'll see how those factors affect everything a week and a day from now. Here it comes. All right, real quick, EcoView Windows and Doors, that's Becky Jackson's company. Y'all let them come button you up and tighten you up, especially if you have single-pane windows. Those are the worst. Even when they were new, they weren't good. That's just bad technology. It's technology from the 1500s. I mean, a single sheet of glass. Get proper windows on your home, even if it's a newer home that just wasn't. And sometimes contractors would go cheap on the windows and spend all the money in the kitchen to distract you and get you to buy that house. Let's upgrade those windows. Watch the savings. Becky and her team can explain to you how houses with these kind of windows are losing, on average, 35% in their heating and cooling bills. Some of y'all, it's more than that. So watch the bills go down. Listen to the callers that call up that have this done and will testify about the savings on your utility bills. You add that up year over year, every single year saving that kind of percentage, the windows start to pay for themselves. Plus, they're a good investment in your home. They look good. They operate. They open. They close. You can clean them easier. And they're going to save you, make you more comfortable at the same time. It's ecoviewwindows.com. They'll come give you a free estimate. ecoviewwindows.com. Back here in just a minute. Man, Alabama Bass ready to come help you out if you've starting to struggle, lose a step in life. That happens. That happens to the best of us. We're all going to get older, and you hope just to have freedom and independence and peace and security when you're in that stage. And there are a lot of improvements you can make to your own home. You don't have to give up the place where your kids grew up and where you live and where all your memories are just because it's getting difficult to get around. Make some changes. And one of the easiest and quickest is the product that they do at Alabama Bass, where they come in and just rip out that old bathtub that's so hard to get in and out of and put in a new system that's easy to get in and out of with slip proof surfaces. I love that part. Man, it gets soapy and slippery in there. And it's thought through. So, say you want to sit down, there's fold down seating or fixed seating. Some people like to sit there and let that water flow. Sometimes you just want to stabilize yourself while you're moving side to side. They've got shelving and handles so you're not reaching awkwardly. Even the plumbing fixtures themselves, they showed me one of the build outs down there in Pelham, and they've got like a magnetic head on the shower head and the wand. So when you put it back, you're not fumbling around trying to clip it back where it goes. It just pops right back into place. So easy, thought through, smart. If you're a veteran and you're going through some things in life too, you may qualify to get one of these projects done in your home. The VA pays you on our behalf. We thank you. Take advantage of it. Alabama Bath will go through that with you. Some of these big old companies aren't going to waste time on you. They're too big. That, but Alabama Bath will wait for the approvals and wait for the process. Even give you some guidance along the way. John's a veteran at Alabama Bass, and so he gets it. Alabama Bass. Y'all reach out to him, alabamabass.com, alabamabass.com. Over in Pelham if you want to go see him and take a tour of one of the facilities. More earthquake videos coming in. Nothing damaging, but you're seeing a lot of lights swinging around down in Florida. Some of these are from Cuba. Depending on who you talk to, it's either a 6.1 or a 6.4 earthquake off Cuba that rattled Florida this afternoon, all the way up to Orlando. They felt it in St. Pete, Orlando, over toward Daytona, and then points all to the south of that. This is just before we came on the air this afternoon. Again, no reports of real damage, but a surprising earthquake. They're rare in our part of the world, and I consider that connected to us in a lot of ways. And so far, this is the second largest recorded earthquake in the history of the Gulf. So how about that? Okay, we'll do some phone calls, talk about some other things in the headlines when we get back. So we get on into a Monday. Rain coming down. Y'all be careful. Huge backup on I-20 near Leeds. Look out for that. Back in a minute. All right, y'all. Work trucks. Man, I was down in that area today. Took my Jeep down to Tapco, and I was just out walking. I was just out walking on the streets of Birmingham this morning. I dropped my Jeep off. It needed a little more work than just a oil change. So Michael and the team are all over it right now, which is why I'm shuttling around town, and AJ's driving me around, and Uber's driving me around. But a lot of our clients are down that way. Birmingham Broker went by and hung out with them today. Right around the corner from there's Work Trucks. Work Trucks is an incredible business that helps business. This is almost a B2B place because some people aren't in business that need these kind of vehicles, but they're just plain straight commercial based trucks of all shapes and sizes and abilities for whatever you've got going on out there. Most of it is commercial business where you got to haul stuff, your goods or your services or your people or your stuff. And they've got every configuration you can imagine. You know what I mean? When we talk about box trucks or those high top sprinter vans, cargo passenger vans, flatbeds, beds, big dualies, cab chassis, all over the lot. Everything you can imagine, they go through these trucks. Some of them are fabulously outfitted with service bodies already there, if that's what you're looking for. You're not going to have to buy a truck and then pay for the upfitting. These things are ready to go. Crane trucks, bucket trucks, they're all down at Work Trucks. Put an X in there when you spell it, TRUX, Work Trucks, LLC.com, Work Trucks, LLC.com. Downtown Birmingham, 3rd Avenue South. Y'all go and see them. Tell Bubba we said, hey, and get yourself financed, get warranties, get whatever you need to keep your business going at Work Trucks. All right. Back to the Carmelo Anthony case for a minute. They've now dismissed the jury after the defense rested. So they're going to go home. They're not going to do closings today. That'll all be tomorrow. That makes sense. I was just trying to do the math on it. It's late in the day. Sometimes you have judges that just want to push, but they don't want a tired jury, and the jury will have a whole night to mull over what they've already heard. I mean, that can affect things once they get back into the room. I've never understood how much the closings will make a difference, and what that comes down to is a case-by-case thing, and it's the attorney's ability to connect with jurors. I think back to some of the trials I've covered and where I thought attorneys went wrong. One that was shocking is one of the most shocking cases in terms of the way the jury ruled. My little young 25-year-old self learned a big lesson about how juries work and how smart attorneys work. Let's see if I can recap this. We had an old senator from Alabama named Danny Corbett, Russell County, Alabama, Democrat, of course. And Danny had a little scam going. Danny, he's one of these good old boys, kind of had a mullet, just kind of got that sleazebag thing going on. They're still down in Montgomery. I'm just talking about old times. And Danny had concocted a scheme, and they laid it out in front of the jury. I covered every second of the trial. It's a public corruption trial. And I had interviewed Danny Corbett many times. So basically what he did, to put it in my words, was he got somebody over at the University of Tuskegee to ask for a study. I can't remember what the study was. And he got a grant appropriated for the study. Right, AJ, they're going to study something at Tuskegee. And so guess who Tuskegee hired to do the study? It was a company called the Wildwood Company. So Tuskegee, follow me here. Tuskegee, in a minute, I want to make a point about juries. So Tuskegee hires the Wildwood Company to do this study of whatever they were studying. I don't even know if they actually ever produced a report. They hire the Wildwood Company, and the Wildwood Company was paid by Tuskegee for money given to Tuskegee by Danny Corbett. Danny Corbett got it in the bill, got them the funding. They go hire the Wildwood Company. Who was the Wildwood Company, would you ask, AJ?
Who was that?
It was Danny Corbett's girlfriend and Danny Corbett. It didn't exist. They said they opened up a post office box across state lines in Georgia. Remember, this is Phoenix City. So his, the state line runs right through there, Columbus, Phoenix City. They just opened up a bank account and opened up a P.O. box so they got to have P.O. box so you're going to get the big fat check. His girlfriend picked up the check at the post office box, put it in the bank account, and that was it. I don't know if there was a study. So good old Charlie Graddick, who famously ran for governor back in '86, he's one of the reasons I ever did anything active in politics was that Graddick Baxley race when I was a kid, and so Graddick wound up being a prosecutor down in Montgomery, and he put the case on for Charlie Graddick, and they held it in Russell County. And I went in this old hot, sweaty courtroom every day for like I think it was a week and a half, covered all this testimony. It was overwhelming. AJ, they had charts, they had big old blow ups of his bank account records. You could see the deposit go in, you could see the money go out. You had witnesses. It was the clearest case I've ever seen in my life. I was like, this dude's going to prison. Danny Corbett is going to need some soap on the rope. He's going to prison. And then here's what happened. The defense attorney, and I wish I could remember his name. I'm getting old. This was 30-something years ago. The defense attorney, when it came their time, Danny Corbett put on a spectacular case. But only if you can do math. Only if you could read a balance sheet. The defense looked over at that jury that was falling asleep. A lot of them were just poorly educated and bored out of their minds as if they had watched their accountant give a presentation on how he likes to do math. They were sitting there just zoned out. One or two of them were staring out the window. I didn't notice this because I was young and stupid. I thought, what an immaculate case. I understood every bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
That jury was illiterate. They didn't give a damn about any of that stuff. They were bored out of their minds. So what would you do as the defense attorney? The defense attorney got up. He's one of these foghorn, leghorn Southern attorneys. He goes, Your Honor, we rest. I mean, they didn't even put on a case. They didn't even present a witness. They knew that Charlie Graddick had bored the snot out of that jury, and that jury was not going to convict. I don't know. It was as if they'd paid everybody on it. I'm not saying they did that. But they looked over there and watched that jury. And they gave some quick closings, and that jury came back. I swear, again, it's been a long time. I think it was under an hour. Boom, not guilty. This dude went home that night. I mean, they laid it out there. This dude straight used his office to steal money for a fake study and got paid, got his girlfriend some new nails, whatever he did, went on a Bahamas cruise, whatever he did, get him some hair product. I don't know what he did. It was the 90s. And they just walked because of the jury. A good lawyer can read that jury, can know their faces, pay attention to everything they're doing. You've seen plenty of movies, probably some John Grisham movies that detail this kind of stuff, but it's the real world. And again, the standard is in a criminal case where there's a life at stake and a dead victim. In most states, including Texas, you got to convince 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond a reasonable doubt. What does that mean? Well, it means what it sounds like. They can't have a smidgen of doubt that is any reasonable person would have about what the prosecution has told them. They can't go, yeah, but I don't know. That's reasonable doubt. So all 12 have to go, nah, that's a pretty good case. He did it. Bam. Verdict. We set our system up that way. It's unfair to victims and their families in some ways because the burden of proof is going to be on a government. Our founders distrusted government in every way, which is why we've had the freedom that's slipping away from us, but we've had all this time. They didn't want a big, powerful central government, and they didn't want, because in those days, the king could just accuse you of something, and you were in the pillory all day with your head hanging out, people throwing tomatoes at you, or you were sent to jail without a serious trial just on the accusation. And the king had that kind of carte blanche authority. And in fact, if you go to Williamsburg, little clue, and see the recreated village there at Williamsburg where they're reenacting this period, there's a mock trial that goes on. I wound up getting on the jury for this thing. They'll pull tourists to come up there and sit on the jury, and they put on a case and show how unfair it was because they demonstrate a case where a guy gets railroaded, and even though you're on the jury, you're kind of a token in this mock situation, and that's the way life was for them. The king could come steal their guns. The king could read their mail. He could put his troops in their houses. So every element of the Constitution, when it was crafted and put together, particularly the Bill of Rights, was based on their experience. And their experience was we don't want a judicial system in this case to be so powerful that by merely being accused, you are automatically convicted. The state has a higher burden to bring a complete case, and you've got a right to be defended. And a lot of us get annoyed with that because defense attorneys do some shady stuff. Their job is to force the state to put that case on right, and that makes a better system. So I don't know that the attorneys in this case in Texas really pressed the prosecution that much. Again, we're not in the courtroom, don't know how the evidence is being perceived. We know how it plays in the media. It seems very rational. We think we know a few facts about the case, but now we're going to be in the hands of a jury coming tomorrow. They apparently, unless somebody cuts a plea deal overnight, this jury is going to make a decision, and we're all going to have to deal with the aftermath of that, and that's where we are. Let's talk about Southern Skies Dermatology. Speaking of skin color, I don't care what your skin color is, we all have some vulnerability to skin cancer, no matter how much melanin you have or don't have. Some of it's damage, some of it's genetic, a lot of factors. Get that assessment. Know that you're good. And I try to make that point because I got younger listeners that are blowing me off right now. That's supposed to be an old people thing. I got black listeners that are blowing me off. That's an old white people thing. It's really not. Bob Marley had a melanoma on his foot, died. We've got cases, I've had cases of family members in their 20s that came down with skin cancer. It can affect people of all ages. Some are more vulnerable than others, and you let them assess that for you at Southern Skies. There are a number of factors. Damage you did 20, 30 years ago can suddenly manifest itself into skin cancer after all these years. So stay on it, go get checked, and let them check you. They're the best. They just are. They set up Southern Skies just to do this kind of work to help people find and remove skin cancer, and they're saving lives all the time. I get incredible response from audience members over the years that wouldn't have gone in a million years, didn't even have it on their minds, because we don't get all these PR pushes with themes about skin cancer like we do some of the other cancers. You should do all of them, by the way. Do all the screenings you can to make sure you're good. But, man, they got sick of hearing me push them every day, so they finally went, and guess what they found? I get that all the time. Guess what they found behind my ear? The last guy was, guess what they found on my ankle? Go get checked. Southern Skies Dermatology, great locations around town. Dr. Mario, he's a Mohs expert. That's the exact way you want to have it removed if it needs removing. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. When's the last time you gave somebody you love flowers? Come on now. You ain't got to tell me out loud, but think about it in your mind. When's the last time you sent anybody flowers? Be a nice person. Don't be a butthole. Send flowers. I'm serious. Just there's somebody in your life you love, even your mama, that you need to send flowers. We probably all know somebody that's a little low right now, a little blue, struggling. Little flowers. Hey, dudes don't mind them either. It's really about the thought, that note, whatever you have to say in that note. Here's some personal advice. Get that note ready in your mind and get your message ready because the process at Blakely's Bouquets online is so quick and easy to do. You'll stop at that point. That's what happened to me the last time I'm looking at, oh, those look good. That's a good price. Click, click. Then they're ready for your message and the payment. Payment was easy. Had that ready. Had to think about it. So get your message ready before you log on. Think it through. Make it sweet. Get online. Boom. It's done. You do it in the morning. The flowers are there by noon. They send you a little text, let you know it made it. If you want to swing by their shop and do something very custom, say you got a big gathering or some unique flower need or centerpieces, whatever you got coming up, they'll handle that for you. You can work with them. They'd love to see you. But for the online stuff and sort of prearranged deals, things that they've already designed to show off for you, get on there, fellas. Blakely's Bouquets, Blakeelees. It's two names. It's two guy names, Blake and Lee. Blakely's Bouquets.com. All right, let's go to Don over here. Don's got a comment this afternoon. Don, what's up, buddy? Is Don there? Hello, Don. Hello, Don. I don't hear Don. Do you hear Don? Should I hang up on him?
Yeah, he was talking about Southern Skies, but I guess
I'll put it on hold. We'll see if we can go back to him real quick. I'm nerding out on this earthquake. Let me go back to that for a second. So I looked it up, and the largest earthquake recorded in the Gulf of Mexico was a 6.4, and it was, I don't see the year on this map. Somebody had plotted out all the previous recorded earthquakes, but it was close to sort of the east coast of Mexico in that Big Bend of Mexico before you get to the Yucatan, if y'all know what I mean, the far western Gulf of Mexico. This one was much to the east, just to the west side of Cuba, and felt all over central Florida. So it had a huge. Let me pull this up and see if I can zoom in on this. No, I'm sorry, that's a tropical map that's also come up. The Gulf of Mexico meteorologists are all watching the potential as well for a potential tropical system that could develop later in the week. That has some promising computer maps, but then again, not. So there's all that. AJ, is Don back?
Well, that was my fault. I thought he said Don, but it was the wrong name.
He said Scott.
Yeah.
That's okay. All us white boy names sound the same. Scott, what's up, Scott? Inside joke.
This is twice.
Inside joke with me. Yeah, AJ walked out the parking lot today. Can I rat you out, AJ, before I go to Scott?
Ahead.
So we go out. We're heading to lunch, and AJ, he thought he saw Jim Moore. It's an older white guy in the parking lot. Come on, Jim. Jim, you know I love you, but he thought it was Jim. He said, "Hey, Jim, what's up?" I was like, "Who are you talking to?" He goes, "That's Jim Moore." I was like, "Hey, Jim Moore." So the guy said hey to us, and then I told AJ, I said, "All us old white guys look alike."
Yeah, we all look alike.
Don't we, Scott? Scott, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Hey, I'm Scott. No, I was just going to put a shout out, Leland. Yeah, I heard you talking about Southern Skies Dermatology, and man, they're the real deal. I went over there and Dr. Mario, he checked it out, and he had to cut some stuff off and send it up. But he looked at it and he said, "You know, Scott, this looks about Panama City, 1986."
Oh yeah. So he pinned the year for you. Yeah, that's when we did the damage,
right.
Didn't it? When it, Scott, we must be of the same age.
I was afraid he was going to throw out spinnakers there, and then he might have been there at the same time. I don't know. He's calling me out.
You know what's funny about that story, Scott? Today, when I was down at Tapco working on my Jeep, I looked over and somebody had brought in an older CJ7 Jeep, and it came from Birmingham Broker. I saw the Birmingham Broker tag, and somebody has brought them. I don't know if this is going on the public market or not, but this thing was a 85 CJ7 that only had a few thousand miles on it. I couldn't believe it. So I said, "Can I stick my head in there?" and looked at it. Scott, I had a flashback, and I told those guys, I said, if I'd have had this in Panama City in the 1980s, I'd have never come home.
That's right.
We could have cruised around in that thing the whole time.
Good stuff. I cruised the strip in Panama City in a 1982 Datsun before it was Nissan, and with my stereo system from Sounds Great, and man, had the mullet and the sunroof out, and
Damn right.
There were no better times in history.
Well, you were one of those rich kids with a Datsun. I had a Chevy Chevette with no sunroof, doo-doo brown. That's how I was rolling down in the PC.
Nice.
And,
well, yeah,
but I had a Pioneer
Southern
system from
Sky-
Radio Shack.
Oh, that's nice. Well, see, I couldn't afford the Alpine.
Yep, that was
like
for the
my
rich
buddies
kids.
had, so
Yep.
I just did the best I could.
Yeah, those sons of bitches. To be honest with you, Scott, it
Good
might have been a
times.
realistic to be. I think it was.
Yep.
Thanks, Scott. I think it was Pioneer. It might have been realistic. Hey, Jay, do you remember the days when old guys would talk about their
system,
systems in the car?
Mhm.
Remember just a while ago, I went to Best Buy because there's not hardly any retailers that sell any car audio anymore. So I go in there. I was like, I need to pick up a couple of speakers. I was going to change out the speakers. Believe it or not, nowadays in my tractor, that's what I'm cruising on nowadays. It came with these crappy speakers. I thought, I'm going to put some better speakers. I need some kickers or something. So something a little more rugged too. And I go in there, and the little dweeb 25-year-old that's working there with the giant beard, I said, car audio? He looked at me like I'd ask him for, a turd from a Martian. I was like, car audio? He goes, no, dude, we don't even really. I was like, I know you sell that stuff. I saw it online. He goes, well, it's just online, not in the store anymore. He said, nobody does that anymore. I felt so old. I walked in there and I thought, well, it makes sense because cars are so computerized. Everything's tied to that central computer in the middle of the car, so nobody's actually putting in radios like we used to do.
Mm-hmm. I remember used to go to Best Buy and wish and hope to be able to get one of them sound systems. And I used to go in there and used to play, ooh, let me get this JBL and see what this is all about, or this Kenwood. And even though I know darn well I couldn't afford it. Ooh, look at how this thing pops up and it's touchscreen.
When you pull it out, yeah.
It's fancy.
Oh, that's fancy. So there was a hierarchy too on the brands.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alpine was at the top, like my brother just said. Pioneer might have been below that, but then there was Realistic,
like the no-name brands,
and below that was Kraco. You were broke ass if you showed up with a Kraco, man, with them speakers frying like eggs. Just might as well turn it down. And we all knew what kind. Everybody that cruised by, we knew what kind of system they had.
Right.
My buddy Bud, I think he listened sometimes. He had the best system in the world. I can't remember I think he had an Alpine in his big truck. Good times, man. Good times. Back in a minute.